Have you ever made a decision so absurd that you immediately regretted it, but couldn't back out of it because your pride was on the line? Yeah, me neither, until I found myself standing in my neighbor's living room, holding her cat's carrier in one hand and a bag of birdseed in the other, wondering how in the world I got myself into this mess. It all started on a sunny Saturday morning. I was in my backyard, enjoying a rare moment of peace with my golden retriever, Max. He's a ball of sunshine, always happy, always eager to chase a frisbee or lick your face clean. My neighbor, Mrs. Prudence Clearwater, yes, that's her real name, was out with her pet, an arrogant, purebred Persian cat named Sir Whiskers. Mrs. Clearwater and I are as different as night and day. I'm more of a laid-back, jeans and t-shirt kind of guy, while she's the type to color coordinate her gardening gloves with her hat. Her yard is a perfect, pristine garden of roses and trimmed hedges. Mine is more of a natural landscape, wildflowers, a vegetable patch, and, okay, maybe a few to many dandelions. Max has always been curious about Sir Whiskers, and who could blame him? The cat struts around like he owns the entire block, and Max just wants to make friends. But every time he gets close, Sir Whiskers hisses like he's warding off a demon. I usually manage to keep Max on our side of the fence, but that day, my phone rang at just the wrong moment. By the time I turned around, Max had bounded over the low garden fence, excitedly wagging his tail as he approached Sir Whiskers. The cat puffed up to twice its size, hissed like a banshee, and darted up the nearest tree. Mrs. Clearwater, who was pruning her roses, shrieked like Max had just knocked over a national monument. "Control your beast," she shouted, her voice trembling with indignation. "It's just a dog," I shot back, trying to coax Max down from his new perch by the tree. "He's a menace," she replied, her face as red as the roses she was tending. Sir Whiskers could have been seriously injured. Injured? He's in a tree, safe and sound, and Max just wanted to play. The argument escalated from there, our voices rising in pitch and volume, neither of us willing to back down. Then, in a moment of pure frustration, Mrs. Clearwater threw down the gauntlet. "If you think your dog is so harmless, why don't you take care of Sir Whiskers for a week and see what it's like to handle a real pet?" "Fine," I barked back, "and you can take care of Max. Let's see how you handle some real energy for a change." And just like that, the swap was on. It was one of those moments where you feel the words come out of your mouth, but you're already regretting them as they hang in the air. But backing down wasn't an option, not when Mrs. Clearwater was already storming off to fetch Sir Whiskers' carrier. The next morning, the swap began. I woke up to the sound of loud meows that echoed through my apartment like a foghorn. Sir Whiskers was perched on my dresser, glaring at me like I was some sort of intruder in my own home. Meanwhile, Max was happily trotting over to Mrs. Clearwater's, his leash barely needed as he obediently followed her through her immaculately trimmed yard. By mid-morning, I was convinced this was the worst idea I'd ever had. Sir Whiskers refused to eat the brand of food I'd bought, and instead knocked the bowl off the counter with a disdainful flick of his paw. He'd hissed at me 3 times and swatted my hand twice when I tried to pet him. I could almost hear Mrs. Clearwater's smug voice in my head, lecturing me about how to properly care for a superior feline. Meanwhile, across the fence, Max was wreaking havoc in Mrs. Clearwater's perfect little world. Every time I glanced over, I could see her chasing after him as he joyfully dug up her flower beds or splashed through her koi pond. I couldn't help but chuckle, even as Sir Whiskers knocked over another vase. The next few days were pure chaos. I learned that Sir Whiskers had a strict routine, and any deviation was met with disdainful glares and even more dramatic hissing. He needed his litter box cleaned twice a day, his food served at precisely 7 o'clock a.m. and 6 o'clock p.m., and his fur brushed gently every evening. I didn't know a cat could be so high maintenance. Mrs. Clearwater, on the other hand, was getting a crash course in the world of dog ownership. Max, bless his heart, is a bundle of energy that needs at least 3 long walks a day and a couple of games of fetch to tire him out. And unlike Sir Whiskers, Max loves to roll in mud, chase after squirrels, and, well, be a dog. I could tell from her increasingly frazzled appearance that Mrs. Clearwater was not enjoying the experience. The real turning point came on day 5. I was sitting on my couch, nursing a scratch on my arm from Sir Whisker's latest outburst when I heard a knock at the door. I opened it to find Mrs. Clearwater standing there, her hair disheveled, her clothes covered in mud, and Max sitting obediently at her side, wagging his tail. "I can't do this anymore," she admitted, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. He's just too much for me," sighed, feeling a pang of sympathy. "And Sir Whiskers is too much for me. I don't think I've ever been this stressed in my life." We stood there for a moment, both of us looking defeated. Then, almost simultaneously, we burst out laughing. It was the first time we'd ever laughed together, and it felt like a dam had broken between us. "Let's call it off," I suggested. "We've both proven our point. I'll take Max back, and you can have Sir Whiskers." "Agreed," she said with a smile, handing me Max's leash. As we swapped pets back, something shifted. Mrs. Clearwater looked at Max with a newfound respect, and I found myself giving Sir Whiskers an apologetic pat on the head. Maybe we'd never be best friends, but there was a newfound understanding between us. In the end, the great pet swap disaster taught us more than just how to handle each other's pets. It taught us that our differences didn't have to divide us, that sometimes the most unexpected challenges can lead to the most surprising friendships. As I watched Max happily reclaim his spot on the couch, I glanced out the window and saw Mrs. Clearwater sitting on her porch with Sir Whiskers purring contentedly in her lap. I couldn't help but smile. Maybe we'd both learned a little something about patience and maybe, just maybe, about how to live a little outside our comfort zones. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with your friends. Thanks for watching.